Hi everyone, so I'm doing the video for what I read last week. So I ended up reading Sam's Secret by Ruby Dixon. Now I ended up giving this a 3. Okay. Ruby Dixon is, I do like reading basically almost every one of her books. I do like reading her. She's kind of hit or miss for me. I will say that. I really enjoyed the Ice Planet Barbarian series. This year, the Ice Home series, even though I have been liking this series, they're kind of hit or miss. It's usually like one book is good, the next book is bad, and the next book is good for me, and the next book is bad. So, the last book I read, I liked it. I thought it was good. This one here had some issues. I'll just say that. Had some issues. So we have the characters of Sam and Sessa. Now, Sam, you've kind of seen her in previous books. I had said she's been on the Ice Planet for some time, and she's been more standoffish when it comes to finding a mate. So you end up finding out that when Sam was on Earth, she dealt with a stalker. Her ex-boyfriend was an MMA fighter, and he started smacking her around. She got away from him, but he kept following her from place to place. So after she landed on the Ice Planet, she finds out that she won't be going back to Earth. Like, she's ecstatic, you know? She's like, yes, I don't have to deal with this psycho from Earth. Yeah. So she don't have to deal with him anymore. But her comfort on that planet diminishes when Daisy, from some of the previous books, ends up coming onto the planet. So it kind of puts Sam back into that like fight or flight mode. Like, if anybody's ever been in either an abusive relationship or a mentally abusive relationship, you know that there are things that are going to set you off, you know? Like, for me, certain things that I would say, like, if my boyfriend ever said those things to me that my ex said to me, it probably would set me off. I'd probably start getting, like, flashbacks. So for her, that was basically what she was doing, is that it put her in this state of, like, fight or flight. She would have weapons on her constantly. She would sleep with a knife. I mean, I felt for her. I really did. I really felt for Sam, because, you know, her life that she had on the Ice Planet was disrupted by this new person coming in. And so it really messed her up, like, you know, up here. So I said, Sessa, he's been around since the beginning of, like, the Ice Home books. At the time he was a teenager. He has since grown into a man. So he was basically, like, he would trail behind Tia. Now, Tia is a whole mess of trouble. That girl is, she's drama and a headache, you know? Drama and a headache. So, I mean, if Ruby Dixon ever did a story about Tia, I probably would skip it, because she was just, like, flirting with all the guys, you know, causing the guys to fight amongst each other. It just, to me, when girls do that, and I don't say women, because women know better, it's girls that do that. When girls do this, when they act all, you know, flirty with all these guys, and they're getting these guys to fight amongst themselves, that is some juvenile shit right there. That is some juvenile stuff right there. So I cannot stand Tia. So if Ruby Dixon ever does a romance with Tia in it, skipping that. Skipping. So Sessa really kind of, like, saw Tia for what she was, and he was like, I don't want anything to do with this girl. You know, I liked her until I realized that, you know, she's flirting with all these other guys and everything. And then she, like, kissed him and said, like, oh, you don't do it right, you know? And, like, instead of, like, he's an alien on an alien planet. He's not going to be the best at French kissing, you know? So come on. It's about teaching them. So he has grown, and he's kind of tired of the area that he was in. I can't remember. It's like Croatoan or something they call it. The other, like, camp. So he decides to go to the beach area. And then, yeah, he's thinking about Sam. He's like, oh, I get to see Sam. Because he kind of had a little crush on her. And then, as soon as Sessa gets there to the beach, Sam starts resonating. You know, her quee starts, like, purring and shit. So, Sam does what Sam does. She runs. She gets out of the camp and, you know, figures to get away. So he decides to follow her. He's like, he has a feeling that she's resonating to him. And so, because he's getting this weird, like, in his chest, weird ache in his chest, and he's not sure what it is. And so he's like, figures, let me follow her and see. So they go to, like, the fruit cave that they had in previous other books. You know, it's definitely hotter in that cave, and, you know, a lot of, like, you know, wildlife things are growing, like, you know, fruit and different stuff like that. Whatever fruit is on that planet. So they basically kind of, like, get to know each other and all that stuff throughout the book. I'd say the things that kind of, like, the story was okay to me, but I said I wanted more than what I got. I said I thought Sessa was a super sweet cinnamon roll, but I thought he was a bit, like, too naive, you know? And I don't want to say dumb, but I mean, he seemed a bit too naive, you know? And I said also I really liked the fact that he was super patient with Sam, because she was really stubborn. You know, really stubborn. And it's like, she had to get it in her head, like, girl, you are not gonna deal with another ex like that on this planet. You know, these creatures, these aliens, like, they're devoted to their women, you know? They do all this stuff for their women. They just want to have a mate, you know? So they're not, like, they're not abusive. They're not violent, you know? So she really needed to kind of, like, get over that. I said, I could understand why Sam was reluctant to become mates with Sessa. I said, from her past abuse and trauma, but I felt like Sam was a bit too closed off. I think if she would have talked with Steph, you know, Steph's like kind of like the camp psychiatrist kind of thing, about her concerns and past trauma, then I feel like Sam would have been, you know, better than what she was. It was a decent read, but it definitely lacked in a sense for me. And that's why I ended up giving it a 3, because it did lack for me. And yeah, like I said, Ruby Dixon's kind of like up and down for me. Like, some books work for me and other books just don't work for me. This one, like I said, was all right. Even though I loved Sessa, I thought he was just a sweetheart. Sweet, you know, sweetheart. Cinnamon roll, you know. But he was a bit naive. Like, she was kind of giving him, like, signals, like, you know, kind of like showing with, like, her face, like, hey, something's up kind of thing. And he was just like, doing, just completely oblivious. And she basically had to save the day. And he looked kind of like the weenie. So I was like, dude, like, read the signals. So yeah, it was a bit lacking. For me, but it's still enjoyable, but not as good as, you know, I like my books to be. So the next book I ended up reading, finally read a Cora Reilly book. Everybody talks about Cora Reilly, and I finally read a Cora Reilly book. I started with the Cora Chronicles. I didn't want to start with the other ones. Honestly, I didn't. So I decided to read Twisted Loyalties by Cora Reilly. So I ended up giving this a 4. So this one here, we have the characters of Leona and Fabiano. So it said Leona is 19 years old and came to Las Vegas to stay with her father while her mother is in drug rehab. So Leona figures she can get a job and save enough money so she can go to college. So one night she gets caught in the rain and a man stops his car and offers her a ride. So Fabiano is an enforcer for the Cora mob. So he was taken in at the age of 14 by Remo. Now is his capo, whatever they say. Capo, whatever it is. Fabiano is instantly drawn to Leona. He doesn't know what it is about her, but he wants to get to know her and take care of her. The book was decent, but I'm like, honestly, I didn't get the hype. I didn't get the hype of why so many people talked about this series, these books. I don't know. I gave it a 4. Thought it was a decent read. I was expecting more. I'll just say that. I was expecting more from it. For me, the problem I had with these books is I could not stand Leona's parents. They were just wastes of space. And it's harsh to say that. I know it's harsh to say that, especially because her mother's a drug addict. I understand, you know, people who are drug addicts, they're not all there, you know, they're worried about their addiction and all that. Totally get it. But it gets to a point where you can't help the addict, no matter how many times you offer to give them, you know, help or put them in rehab. They have to be the ones to change. That is the first thing they learn in NA, you know, and AA. You have to admit that you have a problem. That's the first thing. You have to admit you have a problem. No one else can save you but yourself. You have to stop yourself from doing that stuff. And they didn't want to do that. You know, her parents did not want to do that. Her mother wanted to continue to shoot up with meth, you know, or heroin or whatever she was doing. She was doing meth. Now I don't know. See, I don't know a thing about drugs. I know heroin, you shoot up with it with a needle, but I'm like, I think there are like a couple of ways you can do meth. I think. I don't know all that stuff because I don't do that, so, but I think, but she shot up with it. And so the mother basically turned into a prostitute because of it. And so Leona basically was going to stay with her dad, but her dad wasn't any better. He had a huge gambling addiction, constantly was betting, so he could not keep money, was always like owing money to this person, this person, this person. And he was a raging alcoholic. So it's like neither one of her parents were like, you know, parent of the year, you know, they were just terrible people. And so she was told by her mother, I guess I felt for Leona because she's kind of the fixer of the family where she's constantly helping. And unfortunately, when you become the fixer, you become an enabler. You enable your family. And so your family constantly does the same things over and over again. They never learn their lesson because they constantly have someone picking up the pieces after them. That's what I was to my family, is the fixer, enabling my family's behaviors, and I'm constantly picking up their pieces and putting them back together. So I felt for her. I felt for Leona, but there was times that she did things that I felt were kind of dumb. Like, her parents were the detriment to her. You know, she wanted to go on to, you know, college and all that stuff, do more for herself. So this is where Fabiano comes in, because he starts to see something in her that he likes. And he wants to help her. He wants to take care of her. And I thought that was very sweet that he wanted to take care of her. And he wanted to, you know, get her away from her parents. You know, I don't blame him. I mean, he was just like, they're a waste of space. And I was just like, I can understand where he's coming from, you know. So I can understand, you know, why she was the way she was. But for me, I said that because of their vices, it put Leona in positions where it made things more difficult for her. And honestly, if I was in her position, I would have ditched those deadbeat parents a long time ago. I would have just, it gets to the point where you can't help this person anymore. And you can't watch them to continue to kill themselves, basically. You know? They're killing themselves slowly. Because one of these days, she's going to have a bad batch of meth, or she's going to take too much and she's going to OD, or her body's going to shut down because you're abusing your body with these drugs. Same thing with alcoholics. Eventually you get to the point where you get cirrhosis of the liver. Your liver stops functioning because you've killed your liver. So you can't function without your liver. So you eventually die of cirrhosis of the liver. So eventually their vices were going to catch up with them. So they didn't need to drag their daughter down with them, you know. I felt like for her, she was too naive, and I just wanted her to be a little smarter, you know, especially because I'm like, girl, you're dealing with the mob. They will bury you in the desert. They don't care. They will bury you in the desert. I don't want to deal with anything like that. No, nope. So to me, it kind of like lowered my liking of the book because she was a little bit too naive, and it also was kind of putting Fabiano in like bad positions too. So I was kind of like, girl, smarten up. I like you, but you're doing stupid stuff. You're doing stupid stuff. So yeah, that one there, like I said, gave it a 4, but it could have been better for me. And I started to read the second book, but then I was like, I was like, no, I want to go into something different. Lately, I've been kind of in I wouldn't say that it's a book, you know, problem where I'm having trouble like finding my next read. That's not really my issue. I have a ton of books I can read. So my thing is like, I'm not hitting like a book slump, but I'm kind of more of like a book funk. I'd say that's different than a book slump. And so I'm going into the books and I'm not getting it where it's like really hitting me, you know, like emotionally and all that stuff. So I'm trying to switch gears. This is why I like to read other subgenres and things like that, like paranormal, and I like to go into historical romance and things like that, because sometimes you get in like a little like reading rut where it's like, oh, I'm just tired of like reading about this, so I'd rather go into something else. So I'm thinking of trying to get into more of my either lighthearted, like romantic comedy type of books, or I'm trying to get more maybe into my historicals, because I have a ton of historicals that I need to read. Like just recently, I went and picked up some books. Like I picked up this one here I can read, you know, Not the Kind of Earl You Marry. That I got at the bookstore because it sounded interesting to me. This one here is like a holiday one. I've been trying to pick up more holiday books and stuff, just try to get me like a little cheerier, you know. So we got The Widow's Christmas Surprise. That looked pretty cute. So I was like, oh, I want to check this one out and see if it's any good. And it doesn't look that long. I could get through it pretty quickly. So these ones here I've been thinking about like reading. And even though the other one's like more of a Christmas one, but sometimes it's like get in the Christmas spirit mood. And then I picked up these ones here. I said A Spot of Trouble. It's shorter, so I figured I probably can get through it pretty quickly. It has to do with like dogs and stuff. So it looked kind of cute. I don't know if it is or not, but I mean, it sounded cute. They're kind of like more of a, not really liking each other. So it says 2 Dalmatians, 1 accidental mix-up, what could go wrong? So it just sounds like a kind of cute little romance. So I wanted to see if it was any good or not. I saw that at like Barnes & Noble. I'm like, oh, let me pick this up. It looks cute. It's got dogs on it and stuff. I'm trying to get myself like in a better mood. And then I saw this one here by Minerva Spencer, so I want to check this out. And this one here, they actually do have this on Kindle Unlimited, so I actually can read it on my Kindle. I tend to get through ebooks quicker than I can physical copies, so I figured I can go into my Kindle Unlimited or Kindle on my Kindle and read that. And if I really enjoy this, then of course I have the physical copy, and then I could just put my little tabs in and all that stuff. So that's what I figured I'm going to do. I need to get into something a little less dark and, you know, things like that. Something a little more lighthearted to switch my mood around a bit. Because I'm getting kind of like just not feeling great. And usually when I'm feeling like this, I know I'm probably going to have my depression's going to come back in. Because that's how it is. It kind of comes in at waves to me. So I know, like, I'm getting to that point where I'm like, ooh, I'm not going to be feeling great. I'm going to be feeling depressed soon. I know I can feel that feeling coming. So I want to kind of switch my brain around. And that's what I've been trying to do lately. Is like whenever I feel like just something going on where like my depression is kind of coming in. And I know it's going to like mess me up. You know, I'm going to get all emotional and just sit there and cry. So I just kind of go into something else, like, okay, pick this book up, pick up something funny that's gonna like switch the brain around, so that way it kind of like forces the depression kind of out. Some people can't do that, but the way mine is that I don't have like, there's like different types of depression. My depression is not like, I don't need medication, things like that. I just get like certain things that, you know, will trigger my depression to come in. So I try to change up things a little bit just to try to, you know, see if it helps. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm going to try it and see. I want something a little more lighthearted, a little more funny, or like a historical romance, because those are like my first loves, is historical romances. Those are the ones that really kind of like, I loved romance when I really got into like historicals, and I know there's people who don't really care for them, and I get it, but I just love that, you know, kind of like warm and fuzzy kind of thing. And that's what historical romance does for me, is that kind of puts me in a certain mood. So yeah, so I'm going to see what happens there for next week, and hopefully, you know, hopefully it switches everything around for me. So yeah, not to keep babbling, but yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, be safe out there, and I will see you all on the next video. All right, bye.